A very brief statement first.
Okay.
So for nearly a
I'll
century.
listen and won't take notes.
Okay, you're done. Thank you. For nearly a century, the chairs of the Judiciary Committee have brought nominees up for consideration only after both home state senators have signed and returned what's known as a blue slip, which I know you're very familiar with. This tradition is designed to encourage outstanding nominees and consensus between the White House and home state senators. Over the years, Judiciary Committee chairs of both parties have upheld a blue slip process, including Senator Patrick Leahy of Vermont, your immediate predecessor as chair, who steadfastly honored the tradition, even as some in his own party called for its demise. So do you still appreciate the value of the blue slip process and intend to honor it?
Go ahead, finish your statement.
Okay. Well,
Is that the end?
that's the question.
You got more paper there.
No, I have to present to you. So this is our Why Courts Matter Coalition created our own blue slip for you to sign.
Okay.
And we hope that you will continue the tradition of the blue slip process that's gone on for both parties, for both the circuit and the district court nominees.
We will continue the blue slip process, but it's not as quite as definitive as what you read there, or what you maybe have read and believe that other people have said.
Okay.
It's a 100-year-old process. Until about the 1960s, it was pretty much this way. The blue slip was considered as an issue before the Judiciary Committee, but if you really wanted to stop a nomination from going forward, maybe I better explain to these people what the blue slip is.
That's a good idea.
Every senator gets, it isn't quite that big, I don't think. If it is,
It's just our standard.
a nominee comes up, just applicable to judges, U.S. attorneys, and marshals. So or any state gets a nominee from their state. It's a presidential nominee because only the president nominates. The Senate votes to confirm or not confirm or to withhold a judgment. And so usually the committee does not proceed with a nominee from a particular state if they don't get each of the two senators to return a blue slip. Now I started explaining from 1917 till the 1960s. It was pretty pretty loosely applied, because if you really didn't want that person worked on by the United States Senate, approved by the United States Senate, you actually had to go to the floor of the United States Senate and object and explain your objections, why not. Then under Eastland, who was chairman for 18 years, it was pretty definitive that not anything moved forward without it. Senator Leahy has said he's going to honor it as long as there isn't abuses. And Senator Hatch, when he was chairman of the committee in the Bush years, as a Republican, he had several circuit court nominees go out without, he processed them, and the blue slip was a return. See? So that's probably the way I'm going to do it as well. We're going to use discretion on what it is, because there was one case in Michigan about 10 years ago where a senator's sister, he wanted his sister to be on the Circuit Court of Appeals, and they held up 4 nominees from that state on vacancies on the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. So you can imagine when the Democrats get on me about this, and they've been complaining because we don't process enough nominees, and we can't process them unless the president sends them to Capitol Hill, that there's always going to be some discretion where there's political games played, but that's kind of the way ahead. So in other words, it's not a hard and fast rule, but it's got a lot of respect.
Have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that it wasn't as clear or as broad as the statement I read, and this is, I didn't know you were going to say that, but we rely on expert opinions. So the quote that I read to you was from a Des Moines Register editorial that you wrote 2 years ago. So I want to know what has changed in the last 2 years.
Nothing's changed.
Okay, well then there should be no issue with you signing this or supporting the blue slip
See, and
process
I'm going
without exception.
to ask my Republican colleagues exactly the same thing that you're asking me. In March of 2009, all of the Republican senators signed a letter to the Obama administration that we were going to
I've read that.
use the blue slip. Now I've got my Republican colleagues
You're on the left, right? I got a lot of them on the right that think we ought to do away with the blue slip.
Sure.
See?
And I hope that you will stand up to them and uphold that tradition.
But you want me to stand up to them with no leeway
Just as
whatsoever?
Senator Leahy did.
Well, what's wrong with the way Senator Hatch did it? He abided by it.
I was using your words that complimented Senator Leahy, so I assumed that you agreed with the way he applied it. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Well, and I gotta look at the whole history of the use of the blue slip.
Can I give you this?
It's not
To
hard to
consider to sign it?
No.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your non-consideration.